All right, so everybody always asks, how do you get them to stick to the ground? So I'm gonna teach you the trick. So on big jobs where you kind of have to figure it out and you have nothing really to attach to, go to the hardware store, buy yourself some 3/4 inch plywood. MDF works just fine. Paint it out to whatever the base looks like, and then we're gonna put in some D-rings and we're gonna leg to the D-rings. The 3/4 inch ply serves as a weight that you can anchor to. Paint it out a little bit, it disappears visually into the ground, and boom, you have a place to start any of your sculptures. So here we go, give it a watch. Obviously match out the paint to whatever floor color it is. Here, we're lucky, same as cheap gray primer. Oftentimes, if you're doing it to grass, just paint it green. As long as you get it close, it's usually pretty good. You'd be surprised how your eye just cheats it. So just get it close. If it's grass, paint it green. If it's decking, paint it whatever the stain is, and you'd be surprised how well it works. Okay, so we now have our piece of plywood, heavy, weighted, 3/4 inch, so it's got some good weight to it. You go buy these D-rings on Amazon. Cost about 30 bucks. They're the ones that they're like just standard D-rings to rig like things around your house. 5/8 screws. And then what we do, and we take it off hammer drill. Okay, nice and taut. Depending what the balloons look like or the ties look like, give yourself a little room back so you can like make the zip ties really taut and stretch them back a little bit. Once again, depending how these things set up, you can put multiple boards next to each other if you have a really big setup, if you have a small setup. I usually put one in and then wedge 1 or 2 small balls between the large ball and the board. That creates a bit more structure, especially in windy scenarios like we have today. Once these are all in, we can start setting up our balloons. And you can see what will happen. Hold on. Okay, that's 2. And then 3. Try to put them the angle towards the thing so they line up and they don't tie at a weird angle to each other. The flaps tie straight to the D-rings. Okay, perfect. All right, so, and make sure you don't leave any extra screws around because that's the way to puncture balloons. I always recommend a long wire tie so you have plenty of room to screw up. On this particular ball, the D-rings are pretty high up on the ball. I might have to add another one onto this board. I thought there was only 3. So you'll notice I'm gonna have the ball kind of hanging over the front edge to hide it.
I'm here if you need me, okay?
Thank you. Just hold it in place. Always have an extra person laying around to help. Always start just by tying them into place, kind of loose. Okay, now you see, these are nice and taut almost. I'll bring this around a little bit so I can put a little extra air in on the bottom. Right, you always want to make it, you want to leave it so there's a little bit of room to get the air hose in. If you have a long reach, you can always just put 2 zip ties together and give yourself a little bit of room to make the extra long reaches. Okay, now you have all 4 kind of nice and taut. You can tighten up the back ones a little bit. Then usually what I do is you take a smaller ball and then you can wedge that into place, and this creates structure, and that structure gives a little more balance, so it's not just pulling on the 4 toggle points, it's pulling a little more. Sometimes what I do is I'll set another D-ring like in close and suck it, so I'll see how taut it gets like this, and then what I'll do is I'll take, so then I have that D-ring in there, nice and taut, right? right? And then you can snug that in there. You can hide some of your clips. It also creates a lot of stability, right? And then you can start zip tying down all your things so it gets nice and taut. And that way your thing's gonna stay in place for a long event. Once again, before I check, this one's getting a little loose, right? It looks like some of the air cooled, so it shrunk a little bit. So I'm just gonna top this off real quick. I'm gonna fill it up until these run flush. The second they run smooth, really firm to the touch. Now that seam is smooth, we're good. Now in this particular case, I have this wire tie showing and I don't really want it to show to the front of the crowd. So what I can do, just give me a short one. So I'm just gonna snug this one right up and attach it to the ball. Grab the nano tape, right? So I'm gonna snug these up next to each other. One that hides my thing. I'm gonna twist this a little bit, make sure I'm not touching seams. And then I take my nano tape. Nano tape is magic. Nano tape, you buy it at Amazon, $5. Take the nano tape, see where it lines up, make sure you're not on a seam. Push them apart a little bit. Don't separate the tape yet. Make sure it's in the right spot. Then peel off the second layer, like it's like double-sided tape, and boom. Now these aren't going anywhere. Nice and taut. And all of a sudden you have a nice structure, you have a nice visual, and it hides all the things. So that's the way you start to put these together. And then you can start stacking up. With nano tape, you can actually just stack balls. I usually put a wire tie there just for backup and safety's sake, so someone doesn't pull it off and run with it. But you could probably just put 2 pieces of nano tape and stick something here and it'd be good. So now I've created this structure that's gonna kind of block the back of this particular event as they asked, right? Boards in place. So that's how I build these sneaky things. I'm gonna hide this one. What I wanna do, because in this particular case, I don't have them on the sides, they're kind of close, and sometimes you gotta call an audible. Sometimes the hooks are really wide, so it's easy to work with. You can get them customized depending on what your job thing is. Most of them will be close like this. So in this particular case, I'm gonna run around this tree here, just as support to go in one direction. And then I'm gonna use that little, okay. And then I'm gonna use one down here to go in the other direction. And that way, we have support from both sides. We can also get to the pump if we have to. And we can tighten this up. We can even use this tree if we have to and lean up against it and then tighten it in and snug it, right? Now we're in a nice little position here. And once again, the same way we kind of wedged that in before, we can wedge that in like this. Okay. That's wedged in like that. And then we can, once again, just add a little piece of nano tape here, and then this structure gets real sturdy. We can even put a little nano tape touching to the tree so it doesn't slide away, right? So something as silly as this. Okay, make sure it's there. It's gonna touch the tree. There it is. Okay, once again, it's kind of stuck on the tree. It's not gonna go nowhere. And here's another little piece. We're gonna wedge this. Looks like it sticks. Make sure it's lined up right, not on the seam. Then we take the second piece of tape off and boom. And now all this ain't going nowhere. The wind picks up, the wind picks up.